Hey, what is up guys? I'm going to be doing a quick deck profile for Metaverse. This is just really interesting now because obviously since the new ban list came out, Fairy Tail Snow and Gold Sarcophagus have been hit, which were actually very crucial cards for the Metaverse decks. So here's my particular take on it, and I've been testing it out for a bit already against my friends and all, and it's been quite odd the way it actually performs. So we'll just have to see if this works a further long or anything like that. But hopefully this can actually stay as a long build because, you know, since the very first deck profile I did for Metaverse, I never had to change that deck up until this particular new ban list. And I think with this new ban list, there's just so many changes that we're going to have to start adapting differently towards how we should actually be playing this deck. But to begin, we're playing 3 Ragnarok. I still think this card is just as important, so it's definitely an option you could play 3 of. Considering you also have a Tuna Monster, you can also go for Synchros, but that's not the particular build we're playing for today. We have 3 copies of Nephthys, still very great card, of course. 2 copies of Daedalus, level 7. And also just getting rid of the field. We have Tyrant Dragon, again, another really great card. We also have a Decoy Dragon. I decided to drop this card to 2 instead of playing 3 because for our main reason is that it's a Pendulum monster, and we're not going to really normal summon it in any kind of way. We're mostly just putting it in the scale, and when you put it in the scale, sometimes your opponent won't really bother in destroying the cards. So as a result of that, I usually just clog up and have extras of these in the hand, so I decided to actually drop it down to 2 copies instead so that I don't draw into I don't know, I guess you could say dead cards even, and I just think it's been working a lot better with 2 copies. I'm able to draw into cards I could actually extend my plays rather than having cards that would just set me up and prepare me for the next turn or something like that. But that's it for the Metaverse monsters. We're playing 2 copies of Eater of Millions, just another really good card. And we're also playing 2 copies of Necroface. But sadly, we're not playing Fairy Tail Snow anymore because it's been banned completely. It makes sense, of course. Metaverse is not the only deck that focuses on banishing. The Thunder Dragons have just been the main focus on that. And with that, can't really do anything. Fairy Tail Snow is not gonna come back anytime soon. In fact, unless Thunder Dragons are completely a dead deck, then maybe they could bring back Snow, but even then, Snow was already a problem before Thunder Dragon for many people, so yeah, don't really see it coming back soon anytime. Alright, so moving on to spells, we're playing 3 copies of Metaphys. I think this card, there's not really much explanation to it. It's a really good card, and it does stack if you have multiple copies on the board as well. We're playing the new card here, Card of Sanctity. You guys might be pretty interested about this. I had someone comment on my very first deck profile for Metaphys that Card of Sanctity was a good choice and a good tech option. So I've been trying it out, and it's been pretty good. Banish all cards, both in your hand and all you control as well, minimum of 1 from each, and then you can draw cards, and you see you have 2 in hand. The Metaphys monsters that you banish, it's no big deal at all because you're just going to gain effects of that. And aside from that, you're also gaining 2 cards, and it might seem like a loss, but overall, considering you're getting effects on the next standby phase for all your Metaphys monsters you banished off Card of Sanctity, I just think this card's really amazing. It's a lot better than you think. Pot of Acquisitiveness. I could actually increase this card to multiple copies for certain reasons, but this card helps you return cards back to your deck again so that you don't deck out with Metaphys, of course. Necroface can't do all the work. But speaking of, having more space, Gold Sarcophagus dropped from 3 to 1 now. I am very sad about this. I am still glad that it's at least at 1 and it's not completely banned, but still, 1 copy is just really unfortunate to see here. We just have to make do with it, but, you know, if it was at 3, I would definitely be playing 3 copies of it in this deck, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be going back up anytime soon, so I'm just going to have to deal with the 1 copy for now. But moving on, here's a card that people ignore when it comes to Metaphys, and that is Metaphys Factor. A lot of people underestimate this field spell. They think it's completely pointless, but I am allowed to actually summon a level 5 or higher Metaphys monster without tributing once per turn, and also that monster will eventually get banished during the end phase of the next turn as well, meaning you will get the effect off. And also, the effects of your Metaphys monsters can't be responded to by your opponent. This is a really good effect because it actually helps me win a lot of games, especially Daedalus's effect, where he actually wipes out the entire board and opens the opponent up for me to just pretty much finish him off. So, Metaphys Factor is definitely a card I really don't understand why people don't incorporate into their decks more. Playing one copy of Dimensional Fissure because, again, it's at 1, and I don't think it's going to go up because, again, Thunder Dragons are still one of the better banished decks out there, but I would say Metaphys is a close second. Playing one Mind Control, sometimes you just want to take the opponent's monsters and just finish them off for game. You have a lot of big beat sticks. Even then, you have a Metaphys Ragnarok, who is a tuner monster, so supposedly you might want to take their monster and then use it as a synchro material or even a link material as well. So Mind Control is not a bad card at all. Scapegoat, interestingly enough, I decided to incorporate Scapegoat into this deck, and the card's now dropped to 1, makes sense. It was helping out so many decks stall or, decks that go slower, and also just produce so many resources for Link Summon, but even then, Scapegoat actually helps me out in this particular build as well. So just trying out the card and seeing what happens, and since it's at 1, there's no harm really. Playing one copy of Sacred Sword of 7 Stars because Daedalus is a target, and to end things off, we're playing 2 copies of Trade-In because we have 5 targets for that. Moving on to traps, so we're playing 2 copies of Metaphys Ascension. Metaphys Ascension, most people play 3 of them. I play 2 because I don't like the clogginess of it, and the reason why it clogs is because it is a once per turn effect. There is 2 effects, but each one can only be used once per turn, so I'd rather just utilize 2 copies of this card in the deck rather than 3 copies. Playing 2 copies of Metaphys Dimension, a lot of people underestimate this card just like Metaphys Factor, but this card has so many potential and it helps me get rid of very difficult cards on the field on my opponent's side. So I'm playing 2 for now, and definitely try it out if you don't have it in the deck yet. It just does so much. We're playing 2 copies of Waterfall of Dragon Souls. Your entire deck, really, your entire monster lineup is almost worm type, so with this card it really helps out. And also you can also draw a lot of cards as well by sending them to the graveyard. Combine that with the fact that you might have a Macrocosmos on the field, then you could definitely benefit so much off Waterfall here. So 2 copies for now. And speaking of Macrocosmos, we're playing 1 copy of that. If it was at more, then we would definitely play more, but right now, I doubt it would go up in any more copies. 2 of the more interesting cards I'm trying out for this deck now that we have plenty of space is we have Lost Wind. Lost Wind is just a really great card because it can actually come back again for the second time, so technically I'm playing kind of 4 cards, or 4 copies of Lost Wind here. And, after it gets banished from the second time it's being used, you could also return it back to the deck with Necroface. So it's definitely a really, really good card to actually recycle as well. And I didn't realize how good it actually was to be used in Metaphys specifically. But this is pretty much it for the whole deck itself. In terms of extra deck, you can play any single card you want. Of course, you want to play a good variety of synchro monsters so that Ragnarok can work with Mind Control, but as an overall, you don't really have to play anything else in the extra deck. The extra deck is just there for you to use Eater of Millions effects. So that's pretty much it for this deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck out, and if you guys have any ideas for how this deck can be played during this particular format now that it's changed so much, definitely let me know down in the comment section down below. But in the meantime, hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.